What's up, y'all? It's the backism. It's been a while since I did a live stream because my Wi-Fi's been unstable. Where I gotta constantly reset whatever my freaking stuff. Reset my console, reset my network connection, all that other stuff. It's like 1 minute it'll be like hella good Wi-Fi reception, and the next will be total shit. My live streams will crash. So that's what I'm going through right now, folks. But I think I might be able to do, hopefully, a little short talking about the news of the week. I'll get started right away. Let's not waste any time. Basically, I want to talk about Game Informer basically shutting down. And I know a lot of people are some people are kind of shocked. I don't know why people are shocked. I don't know any people who do have pro memberships don't even probably read their digital copies that ends up in their spam email folder. So it's like, it's no big loss that they're gone. I work at GameStop. We do get physical issues of the magazine, so people can come in and buy them. But, you know, they're just up there taking up space. You may get a customer twice a month who come in. Looks like my Wi-Fi has just went to shit because I'm looking at my live stream. My live stream already shut down. Or what it wants to do. But the two things that basically destroyed GameStop was, for one, I started noticing the change around, I think 2011, 2013. I noticed Andy McNamara, who was like the head editor. He did the editorial. He's the one who started up the magazine, talking about whatever was going on, you know, I guess in the course of gaming industry or like that. But he started backing a lot of the social progressive nonsense that, you know, began to take root in the early 2011s. It was taking root behind the scenes. It's like these people were already building their armies and already planting the siege for the eventual culture war. It started taking root in the early 2010s. This is when gaming journalism took a shit. You had Ardita Sarkeesian with her feminist frequency. You had all these socially progressive, wannabe woke, pro-feminist, you know, kind of YouTube channels and stuff started taking root. It was weird because I remember when YouTube was cranking down on the whole conspiracy theory nonsense. You know how you had all those people doing those Illuminati and secret societies and conspiracy theory, you know, type of, you know, content that was getting people a lot of views, and, you know, they were monetizing it. And then YouTube slowly started phasing that out. You don't see a lot of that stuff anymore unless you really dig for it. And so then, you know, a lot of the cancel culture war content started taking roots in the 2010s. And Game Informer, like especially their head editor, Andy McNamara, he was the one who was doubling and tripling down in the magazine when he started to push more social, political stuff, you know, starting to come up in gaming. And so people would, I guess he would pick letters or whatever and address people's comments about it. I thought I watched all this shit already. What happened? Did I back out? And so, and then when he replied people, he replied like typical how gaming journalists does, you know, when they get caught out on their bullshit and things like that, you know, they double and triple down. You know, they take a firm stance of not backing down because they feel everybody's just ignorant, uneducated. And if you disagree with them, they just feel, you know, you're just being ignorant or you're a bigot or a racist, which is not the case. And so I started to notice a shift in the magazine. I still got copies of the magazine where he was all in on how, I think it began with the new article with Lara Croft, like the new Lara Croft when they relaunched Tomb Raider under Square Enix. They changed the whole character, made her younger, reduced her sex appeal, made her be like Uncharted and stuff like that. And then he's interviewing like the female director, how she started, you know, talking shit about Laura's old designs and how it was sexist, and they wanted to modernize. When he first started hearing the terms modernize was in the 2010s. You know, early 2010s was when that stuff started coming out, when they started saying that shit. And then I think about 2 or 3 years later with Mortal Kombat X, you know, they changed the whole character designs of the characters, took out the sexiness, and he was talking with the character designer about that and MK11 and how they're downplaying it for a quote-unquote modern audiences and stuff like that. So, yeah, people were phasing out the magazine. They were. It was like, when you get the editor-in-chief doubling and tripling down on the bullshit after pretty much a decade of being the top magazine. Like, I was probably in my mid to late 20s when Game Informer was really blowing up. You know, that was during the early 2000s, before the 2010s, where it was pretty much, you know, you had G4. Gaming culture was very male dominated. You know, pretty much female gamers were along for the ride, but nobody stopped girls from getting into games. Matter of fact, guys wanted girls in the games. Girls were playing, you know, games as well, and they were part of the whole dude bro culture and stuff, and the gamer culture of the early 2000s as well. It's like we always had female protagonists. We had our blood rains. We had all that kind of stuff, and nobody took issue. But then you had a bunch of weirdos in the internet that started to become a voice. They were given power by the companies because the companies started giving into their bullshit. And that's why the gaming industry the way it is today. But yeah, Game Informer was one of those magazines who was on the front lines of the quote-unquote social change that, you know, people felt was what was needed in the gaming space. And so that was the first reason why Game Informer started losing a lot of its subscriber and reader base, because, like I said, in my, you know, mid to late 20s, it was cool, it was pretty hip. You know, the reviewers were, you know, pretty knowledgeable, pretty cool, pretty normal. When they're live extreme, you know, that's where I think Game Informer was the magazine that first came up with the term hypersexualization of, you know, female characters and stuff like that. And so I think the gamer audience got older, and I think like 7-Elevens and a lot of bookstores and grocery stores stopped carrying Game Informer. They stopped carrying a lot of game magazines in general, because we used to have EGM, Game Informer, Game Pro. It was like the early 2000s was like a sweet spot for geek culture and geek you know, related products and stuff, because everything was pretty much quote unquote normal. There was no social political bullshit. There was no, you know, people were not stressing about inclusivity and all kind of other nonsense in entertainment. You know, people were just being entertained. It was like you either liked it or you're not. You know, I think that was the last time where things were quote unquote normal. Things went to shit. And so another thing, I think the other thing that killed Game Informer was the fact that when GameStop took it over, and GameStop pretty much used it as a way to just promote the company and to promote the company's products. Oh, there goes my Wi-Fi. And this game looks beautiful on this TV. And so, once the magazine stopped not being profitable because it lost a good chunk of its subscriber and reader base, you know, it became dead weight at that point. It's like you're losing all your readers. It's like GameStop is offering it as a digital magazine. They're no longer pushing it as something you get in your mail anymore. they make it a hassle for you to get it in your mail. Like GameStop, it's like purposely GameStop doesn't want to pay the printing costs of producing the magazine. They rather just give you like an email digital copy. And so once the magazine lost its reader and subscriber base, it just became just a waste of money, you know, just to pay the staff, the editors and stuff like that to produce a magazine that not many people read anymore. Because the truth is, not many people do read it. It's like we got stacks of Game Informer, you know, on display on our store. Nobody's buying those magazines. We got issues that are months old and they're just sitting there. And it's like we'll mark them down to like $2. I think it's like an $8.99 magazine now, when it used to be like $4.99 for my adult years. You know, when it really became big, when I really started paying attention to it. I still got like, if you want to get Game Informer, I suggest you just get the ones that just came out late 90s to like early 2000s, probably up until like around 2012, early 2013. And then after that, it's just, eh. It was there, but not many people cared. So yeah, sorry about the lack of visuals of this volleyball match. That's because the Wi-Fi is ass. Oh my god, it goes down to like kilobytes. Ooh, that was nice. But yeah, folks, that is my rant. I would have talked about other stuff if my Wi-Fi didn't die. There was other stuff I want. Evo, I think, ended like almost 2 weeks ago now. As far as people reactions, you know, Max trying to bring the hype, talk about, oh, this was such a life-changing Evo. I'm like, it was Evo. You know, Evolution Fighting Game Tournament. Evo is Evo. There was some good matches, some hype matches. Punk finally won an Evo. We finally had an American player, and it was Punk who finally won Evo in Street Fighter. You know, he got hot. He gained confidence once he won like CEO. And I think that's what pushed him over. Just confidence, you know, just playing his game. Not stressing over BS, and so he finally won it. And my argument is, it just took a game where, one thing about American players, when it comes to anything American, we will take any edge and abuse it. And it finally took a Street Fighter with mechanics for Western American players to maximize and abuse to finally take out the Japanese players. And I think Street Fighter 6 is finally the game. I forgot who won Evo last year in Street Fighter 6. I think it was Problem X. Was it Problem X? Dang, I forgot. No, he won on Street Fighter 5. I'm trying to think who won Street Fighter 6. I have to go back and look. But yeah, Japanese still did their thing. There still was quite a few of them in the top 8. Arsenal ass, for all the people talking shit about him, you know, early this year concerning Tekken 8, how he wasn't liking or feeling the game. People were like, oh yeah, and he started losing some tournaments or whatever. And so he won Tekken 8 at Evo. You know, he just shut up and adapted about his displeasure of the game. And he just went out and said, fuck it, I'm gonna suck it up. And he won Evo. I would have went on stage if I was Arslan ass and be like, this is for all the haters who talked all that shit online about me being washed. And you know what? I still think this game is trash. But I wanted to come out here and prove the point that I can still beat you at a trash fighting game. That's what I would have said. Why? Because I'm petty as fuck. I definitely would have said, I just would have went up on stage and said that. Or I would have went on Twitter and said that just to rumble some feathers, because you know, people like speaking their truth and talking shit on the internet. It would have been me a way of just rubbing in and just throwing their bullshit back in their face. Why? Because I am petty like that. I am petty and petty. Because sometimes you just can't let people just do what they want and not call them out on their bullshit. Otherwise, they're just going to keep on talking shit. Then again, when it comes to trolls, they're going to troll no matter what. They're going to still talk their shit. Yeah, sorry for the lack of visual for people coming to the room. My Wi-Fi is still shitty, so you're just getting audio right now. Yeah. Basically just talked about Game Informer shutting down. You might have to rewind the live stream unless you want to post in the chat. And then I can repeat everything, but you know, if you're not gonna comment in the chat, then I'm just gonna leave it back where it was. But for those of you guys coming in late, I'm probably just gonna end this live stream because I'm not getting no visual. I had visual for like the first maybe 10-11 minutes before the visuals. Hey Riggs, welcome to the chat. Yep, spoke about Game Informer and the 2 reasons why it shut down. I knew it was going to shut down. It was a no-brainer. I'm just surprised GameStop took this long to shut down Game Informer. Like I said, nobody was getting no physical. Man, everybody in my area used to get like a physical subscription. I remember somebody made a joke talking about it's like, yeah, I had a subscription to Game Informer and didn't know how I got a subscription to Game Informer. It's like, yeah, you get a pro membership going as far back as like, I think around 2000, dang, maybe as far back as 2005, 2006. If you got a pro membership at GameStop, they just gave you a free subscription and you would just start getting your magazines in the mail. Yeah, they had those gaming magazines. Yeah, they had those gaming magazines you would get in the mail if you got a pro membership at GameStop. And then I think around close to the mid 2010s, they started making them strictly digital because GameStop, I guess, well, I just talked about like the first reason Game Informer shut down was because I think the readership got older, and then they kind of they changed the direction of the content and tone of the magazines. Like early 2000s, it was all about gamer culture, you know, dude bro gamers. It was more centered around a dominant male fan base. So, you know, it was coming from that angle. There was jokes, there was humor. It was nothing against the ladies. It was like the ladies won the game. There was nothing stopping the ladies from gaming. They had female reviewers. But the definite tone of the magazines, like in the early 2000s, it was more male-centric. But then when Andy McNamara took over as head editor, he started making things social political. He started backing a lot of the social progressive, you know, BS. Like 2010s, you know, we started getting to the beginnings of the culture war. You have people behind the scenes, you know, trying to cancel people, trying to get, you know, you had Anita Sarkeesian with her feminist frequency, you know, pointing out sexism in video games. And so there was a whole anti-sexy thing, body positivity thing, people putting more clothes on the female characters, and all this other shit. And Game Informer was one of the magazines with the head editor. He was pushing that stuff. And I think people in the letters page would call him out, and he would just double and triple down with the whole social movements he was pushing. So that lost the magazine a lot of readers and a lot of subscribers. And then when GameStop made it, you know, digital only, it's pretty much basically digital only. It's like they'll email your digital version of your magazine and it'll end up in your email spam folder. So a lot of people who had a subscription don't even know they have a subscription because it's in your freaking spam folder, your email. And it's like, I work at GameStop. I even had a customer like a few days ago ask me, she was like, oh, I remember I get these magazines. What happened to them? It's like, do you have a pro membership? I was like, yeah, you still get it. I said, but they send you a digital copy. I said, they email it to you. She said, I check my email like almost every day. I don't see this copy of this magazine. I was like, did you check your spam folder? So she checked her spam, and sure enough, she said, "Yep, there it is." So yeah, the magazine's downfall did not surprise me at all. I expected it to come a lot sooner than, you know, than just happening like a day ago. I expected it to happen like maybe a few years ago, because for GameStop, the reason they took it over was to basically push, you know, the GameStop, you know, push GameStop as a company and to push their products, push their pro memberships in the magazine, basically to get gamers into their store. And so when Game Informer lost their subscribers and their readers, then it no longer served the purpose for GameStop. So GameStop finally pulled the plug yesterday on Game Informer. It's like GameStop was cheap enough that they didn't want to play the print, to print the magazine, to mail it to your house. So you know it was only a matter of time before the magazine, well, they just said, okay, why are we paying these writers, these editors of this magazine, when we're not really making any money on it? We're losing money. It's not advertising the company whatsoever, because nobody's reading their digital copies. They're not printing any copies. They do print copies. You can buy copies in the store. I don't know. I have to find out what last printed copy was released just so I can buy it, just so I can have the last printed issue of Game Informer. I'm sure we have it in the store. Just to have that, just for old time's sake, have the last printed copy of the magazine. I'm sure now some people are going to go to GameStops to buy up the printed issues of the magazine, because like I said, they're no longer going to producing them. I'm going to do my best at work just to get it out the store, because they've been sitting on the rack for months, years. I think we got issues that are a year old that nobody have picked up, just to get rid of it. I'll be like, hey, you know, Game Informer's, you know, no longer producing a magazine. You better pick up these magazines. You know, they might have value later. Emphasis on might have value, because nobody was appreciating the value they were bringing around 2015, probably as far back as 2013. Yeah, 2013, people really stopped caring about Game Informer. You know, people, it's like, especially after G4 died. Dang, G4 died, I think, what, 2010, 2011, around that time. Yeah, the stream. Hey, Meek, how you doing? I pretty much made this just a vocal podcast at this point. But I'm just talking about what happened with Game Informer. Yeah, so it's like I still got like stacks of them in a box somewhere, like my old Game Informer magazine, like the heyday of Game Informer for me, because it was like I was reading EGM and Game Informer. I did have a brief subscription to EGM, but then I started buying it off the racks. And then I know EGM was running the oneup.com website, but then EGM got ended, and that happened. Ooh, what year did EGM die? I'll say, yeah, early 2010s. Early 2010s. I would say about 2010, 2011, EGM stopped publishing their magazine, and they got rid of their website as well, because they shut down the Game Informer website too. And but I used to read both magazines. As far as yeah, Game Informer, it's like I have no sympathy that it ended. It's like I knew the writing was on the wall concerning it. The writing was on the wall. It was going to end eventually. I'm surprised it took this long for GameStop to shut it down. Yeah, but Wi-Fi is still ass. It's still ass. It's like I think the only thing I could do is either try to stream early in the morning where a lot of people are asleep in the house, because that's what drains the Wi-Fi, or do it late at night. But then since we got new roommates, some of them are vampires too, and people like to keep their TVs on overnight. And since all our TV is streaming in the house due to Roku or Fire Sticks, everybody's in on the Wi-Fi. So it's like I'll have moments where I'll do a test, my Wi-Fi is good, but that only lasts for 5 or 10 minutes, and then there'll be a spike or it'll go to shit. So it's either a case of AT&T is purposely, T-Mobile and its absolute butt cheeks. I think AT&T, they do thrive Extreme 3. I think I got about 2 matches in. Yeah, it went down. Yeah, Game Informer went down like a decade ago. It did. Like I was telling Riggs, it was like once the head editor, Andy McNamara, he was doubling and tripling down on the social political bullshit they were pushing in the magazine. It's like a lot of subscribers and the readership, they checked out. And they started, I think they just started to take themselves too seriously at some point. Because I even flipped through like a recent Game Informer magazine. There is no fun. There is no fun to be had. Because there used to be humor, there used to be jokes. Yeah, there's none of that. It's all business in Game Informer. It's a boring magazine. It's like the reviews, if you just get it for the reviews are still pretty on point, not too biased, but the magazine, it's a bunch of articles about stuff going on in the game industry that most people don't care about. That really doesn't concern like gamers in general. They'll cover some games, but half the games you don't even care about. In modern day, gaming, you don't care about majority of the games coming out because there's always some controversy or some bullshit, surrounding the games. So early 2000s, it was all fun. It was gamer centric, and then everything went to shit around the 2010s. It went to shit, and Game Informer, they doubled and tripled down on their content. They wanted to change their content, and it's like yeah, that's pretty much what happened. GameStop said, okay, you're a drain on resources and money, so they had to stop it. Why are we paying these editors and stuff just to lose money? Yeah, Nintendo Power back in the day, I think I only read a few issues of Nintendo Power. Actually, it's kind of hard to find, like, unless somebody's having a garage sale and somebody's selling like single issues of Nintendo Power for like hella cheap. Otherwise, if you try to get that shit on eBay or at a gaming convention or somewhere, they gonna charge you a grip for Nintendo Power magazines. Yeah, they did. They keep pushing games. Yeah, even in the early 2000s, it was like, a lot of game magazines, they were pushing Halo, COD. They were pushing FIFA. Like I said, it was like I said, Game Informer back then was a very dude bro magazine. So those games were getting pushed, but they also recognized if a game is good, It was like, they covered other games, they reviewed other games, they talked about fighting games, wrestling game, Lego Star Wars games. Yeah, Nintendo Power, I would say, I remember I did have the first issue as a kid. I think the first issue, it talked about like, I don't know if it was the first issue, but it was one of the earliest issues I've seen that I read, that I had, was when Super Mario Brothers 2 was coming out. Yeah. I stopped seeing Game Informers on magazine racks, around the 2010s started coming along. I think the last time I saw a Game Informer magazine on a freaking store rack at a bookstore or whatever, I think it was like around 2013, 2014. That was the last time I saw a Game Informer sold outside of the GameStop. Oh yeah, I do recall the Zelda. Oh, the Zelda 2 one. Yeah, I remember that one. Of the Nintendo Power magazine. Dude, let's see. Yeah, I think the pinnacle of Game Informer was pretty much the Xbox 360, GameCube, and PS3, Wii generation of consoles. That was pretty much the height of Game Informer. The early 2000s was the height of Game Informer. It was, well, the gaming industry was still new. There was a lot of fresh ideas coming out. It was funny because even Game Informer, they have articles talking about, I recall when I was talking with a coworker, how they had what issue they were talking about the dangers of digital content. And like half the stuff they talked about, they actually predicted ended up coming true. I think the only one that didn't come true was the fact that like Madden games charging you for stadiums and footballs. But there are a few, I do have a few sports games where I think this recent baseball game I got where they do charge you for like an extra stadium. Like you can pay extra for stadiums or stuff like that. You can pay extra for gear. And so a lot of the stuff they talked about that article, and I think that article came out around, I think 2006, 2007 in the issue of Game Informer, where they talked about the dangers of digital content. And they were right on the money. You know, they also had like a little section where they had a guy talk about obscure, weird, kind of Japanese games. They even talked about gaming, how the military was using video games to do war scenarios and all kinds of stuff. They used to have like a April Fool's issue where they would have like these fake reviewers and shit. But yeah, those were the good old days. Those were I consider probably, it's like if you consider the Atari, ColecoVision, the pretty much golden age, the beginning of gaming, console gaming. Then I consider the NES when it came out in '85 because it rose from the ashes because the gaming industry crashed. You know, you had Atari games filling up landfills. It's like an Atari console, even today, you can get like a working, good, great condition in-box Atari console for like less than $70. You can get Atari cartridges for $2 to $3, $5, dirt cheap, you know. And then the NES came along. That brought about the silver age of gaming, and I think that the silver age was pretty much, I think, up until, you know, you had the Sega Master System, you had the NES, and then you had the 16-bit era, which also implemented with the 32-bit area. GameStop has magazines, but you have to buy them in store. They no longer ship the magazine. Oh, thank you, appreciate it, Alba America. Yeah, they no longer ship the magazine to your house. When you get a pro membership, they give you a digital subscription, and then you would have to jump through hoops to get an actual physical magazine delivered to your house. At my store, we do sell physical magazines. We have stacks of them in front of the register. We have a section of them in front of the register. But GameStop is so cheap. They don't want to pay the money to print the magazine to have it delivered to your house anymore. They started pushing that, I think, back in like 2014, 2015. Because I remember before I started working at GameStop, like back then, I was like, why don't I get a physical magazine anymore? It was like, well, we could have you do it, but then you're going to have to, you know, arrange it with, you know, the publisher of Game Informer. And I'm like, wait, aren't you guys the publisher of Game Informer? Don't you guys own the magazine? It's like, yeah, but you still got to go through their, you know, the subscription. Yeah, yeah, they did. Yeah, it's over. It was like, yeah, it was like, I'm surprised it didn't end sooner. Because at this point, it's like GameStop, they can't pitch this store anymore. They can't pitch the company. They can't pitch the products. So it was a waste of money to have to pay these writers and editorial people to continue doing this magazine when it wasn't bringing GameStop any money. It was a waste of money. It was. So I'm surprised they didn't shut it down sooner, to be honest. It's like, I think EGM, but EGM, when EGM shut down, it was like, I admit, like, Game Informer, it did become the worst magazine, definitely in the 2010s. It did. It was like, a lot of people tapped out. They were done. It was like I told Meek and Riggs, like, 2010s, like, they lost their subscription. Yeah, was it 2015? I thought it was earlier than 2015. It could have been 2015, because I remember the oneup.com website shut down, I think, around 2010, 2011. And that was tied to the magazine of EGM. Because I remember, like, Shu, he was like one of the main faces of EGM. You know, they were talking about, yeah, they were just preparing for that magazine to go away. Game Fan was good. Game Fan was solid. It's like, when I moved up here to NorCal, they didn't get a lot of Game Fan, but in the Bay Area, what was cool about Game Fan was sold in comic book stores. And, you know, I would go to comic stores, so I buy comic books. You could get Game Fans at comic book stores. That was what was cool about Game Fan. And Game Fan surprisingly covered a lot of Neo Geo, a lot of stuff that wasn't popular. You know, they covered like 3DO, Atari Jaguar. You know, they covered other than the popular games at the time. I think because of Game Fan is what got me into importing a lot of my SNK fighting games, because they did reviews of the King of Fighters and other games that the other magazines weren't doing. Hey, Juan Guzman. Oh, Summer 14? Okay. Wow. I'm going to have to look up to find that one. I would definitely like to have that issue of VGM. But yeah, Game Informer became more business, more, what do you call it? Yeah, Game Fan wasn't very import heavy. That's one thing I liked about it. Game Fan was very import heavy. But yeah, wow, EGM Summer 14 went after game producers, game makers, even when they went to their most social progressive era, when they started going after people, oh, they're still making these sexist ass games or whatever and other shit. Hey, are you heading out, Meek? Alright, you take care, bro. Thanks for stopping by. Tell men I said hi. Oh, they do? So, oh, they do? That's cool. I have to look it up if Shu and his crew still do stuff. Yeah, they are the OGs of gaming journalism, man. The old EGM crew, they are the OGs. I remember one time I saw a YouTube video when people asked him about what he feels about gaming journalism, you know, now. And basically he said it's not the same. He said back then they felt they were kind of mavericks of the industry. You know, they had to bust their ass, you know, they had to pay their dues and actually pull out, you know, honest content. You know, it wasn't just to get clicks or clickbait stuff. You actually had to know your shit when it came to reporting on the game industry. And he said that's how you got relationships. That's how you started getting, you know, actual, you know, news and information from companies. Yeah, they did. It's like EGM was huge. And they had EGM, they had some other magazines. But yeah, magazines were the thing in early 2000s though. It was like I was getting Wizard magazine. I think Wizard magazine probably died almost. The Wizard, the guy at the comics, I think died almost the same time as EGM died, or probably slightly earlier. So you go to a magazine rack at Walmart or now, or even at Borders or whatever, and there's no really pop culture geek magazines on the racks anymore, like there was in the early 2000s. Yeah, game journals, they don't beat anything. It's a race to be first. Like I said, a lot of clickbait and stuff like that Dan Shu was talking about. And it's like you got game journalists complaining about how hard games are. It was like, man, them people wouldn't have survived like the NES era. Shoot, I'll pop in an NES game and I'll be like, man, I forgot how hard these games were. And those games were only made like under like 50 megabytes. So we got 8 gigabytes, 100 gigabyte games that we can go through in a weekend. But back